In the dusty village of Okonla, a boy named Femi lived alone in a small mud hut at the edge of the bush. His parents had died when he was 8, leaving him with nothing but a worn mat, a broken water pot, and a bundle of memories. Okonla was a place where people lived close together, but for Femi, it felt like every door was closed to him. Some said he carried bad luck because his parents died young. Others avoided him simply because he was poor. He survived by fetching firewood for women in the market and carrying baskets for traders returning from the farm. But no matter how hard he worked, he earned just enough for a small meal each day. One evening, Femi went to the village square to watch the moonlight dance. The drums were calling, and the women's laughter filled the air. He wanted to join, but a group of boys blocked his way. "Go back to your bush house, Orphan," one of them sneered. "This dance is for people with families." The words struck like arrows. Femi's throat tightened, and he turned away, blinking fast to hide the tears. As he walked back to his lonely hut, he passed Mama Folek's compound. She was sitting outside, braiding her granddaughter's hair. "Femi," she called softly, "you can't keep letting their words break you. You are more than what they say." But that night, as he lay on his thin mat, the sound of laughter from the village square kept him awake. He felt like a calabash floating alone on a river. Drifting farther away from everyone, the next morning, he made a decision. He would leave Okonla. He didn't know where he would go, but he believed the world was wide enough for someone like him to find a place where he belonged. Before sunrise, he packed his mat, his small wooden spoon, and the piece of cloth his mother once tied around him as a baby. His heart felt heavy, but his eyes were clear. As the first rooster crowed, he stepped onto the red earth path leading out of the village. No one saw him go, and no one called him back. But deep inside, he whispered a promise to himself: "One day, I will return. Not in tears, but in honor." The red earth path stretched far ahead, winding between tall elephant grasses that swayed in the early morning breeze. Femi's bare feet pressed into the cool soil as he walked, the morning mist brushing against his legs. At first, he felt light, almost free, but as the hours passed, his stomach growled. He had only a small piece of roasted yam wrapped in a banana leaf, and by midday, it was gone. The road passed through farms where women bent low, weeding, and men lifted hoes over their shoulders. Some glanced at him curiously, but no one stopped him. In their eyes, he was just another wandering boy. By afternoon, the sun became harsh. His throat burned with thirst, and his legs ached. He stopped under a large iroko tree and rested his bundle beside him. From the distance, he heard the rhythmic creak of a cartwheel. An old man approached, pushing a wooden cart loaded with palm kernels. "Where to, boy?" he asked, wiping sweat from his brow. "I don't know yet," Femi admitted honestly. "Just far from Okonla." The old man studied him for a moment, then reached into the cart and brought out a small calabash of water. Femi drank deeply, feeling life return to his body. "Keep walking," the man said. "The world is bigger than any one village. But keep your heart clean, because you will need it when you find where you belong." As evening came, Femi reached a cluster of huts beside a shallow stream. Children played by the water, splashing and laughing. He longed to join them, but instead he sat quietly on a flat rock, washing his dusty feet. A kind-faced woman noticed him. "You are not from here," she said. He nodded. She smiled faintly. "You can sleep in the outer hut tonight. Tomorrow, the road will tell you where to go." That night, as crickets chirped and the moon lit the grass roofs, Femi lay on a woven mat under the stranger's roof. His body rested, but his mind wandered. He thought of Okonla, and how the people there might not even notice he was gone. Still, a quiet flame of hope burned inside him. Somewhere ahead, he believed, there was a place where an orphan's tears could turn into laughter. The next morning, Femi thanked the kind woman and continued along the winding road. The air smelled of wet earth, dark clouds were gathering far to the west. By midday, the wind had grown restless, bending the grasses and rattling palm fronds overhead. He was still several miles from the next settlement when the first drops fell. At first, it was gentle, cool and refreshing. But soon, the sky split open with thunder, and the rain poured in sheets. The road became a stream of red mud, splashing up his legs. Femi spotted a narrow footpath leading into the bush and followed it, hoping for shelter. The path led to a lonely, abandoned hut with a roof half covered in moss. He pushed open the creaky door and stepped inside. The hut was dark, the air thick with the smell of damp wood. He set down his bundle and sat on the floor, listening to the rain hammer the roof. Every crash of thunder made his heart jump, but he hugged his knees and tried to be brave. Then he heard it, a faint sound beneath the roar of the storm. It was soft, almost like a whimper. Femi froze. "Who is there?" he called. From the corner, something moved. It was a small dog, ribs showing, its fur soaked. The animal stared at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Oh. It's just you," Femi whispered, crawling closer. The dog didn't run. Gently, he pulled the animal into his lap, feeling its tiny body shiver against him. They stayed like that until the rain softened to a steady patter. In that moment, Femi felt less alone than he had in years. When the storm passed, he stepped outside. The air was cool and fresh, the setting sun breaking through the clouds in golden rays. The dog followed him, limping slightly. Femi knelt down. "All right, my friend. You and I will walk together now." For the first time since leaving Okonla, his heart felt lighter. He still didn't know where the road would lead, but he wasn't walking it alone anymore. The next 2 days were easier with the dog trotting beside him. Femi named him Toby, meaning great in Yoruba, because even though the dog was small, his company made the road feel less lonely. By the third morning, the road brought them to a busy market town called Okara. The sound reached them before the sight, women calling out prices, traders banging pots to attract attention, the laughter of children running between stalls. Femi's stomach growled. He had no money, but he hoped he could trade some help for food. He tied Toby's rope to a shady tree and ventured into the crowd. Bright stalls overflowed with yams, groundnuts, smoked fish, and colorful fabrics. The air was thick with the smell of fried akara and hot pepper soup. Near the edge of the market, an old woman struggled to lift a sack of millet onto her cart. Femi rushed over and helped her, his thin arms straining but steady. "Esi, Omomi," she said warmly. "Thank you, my child." She handed him 2 roasted plantains and a small gourd of water. As he walked back to Toby, he noticed a commotion near the center of the market. People were shouting, and 2 traders were pointing in his direction. "You there, boy?" a tall man barked. "That's him, he tried to steal a chicken." Femi froze. "Me? I didn't," but before he could explain, another trader grabbed his arm. "Liar. We saw you hanging around the cages." Toby backed furiously, pulling at his rope. But the crowd began to gather. Faces turned hard, whispers spreading like wildfire. Femi's heart pounded. "I didn't touch anything. I was helping, enough." The tall man snapped. "If you're innocent, prove it." The old woman he had helped earlier pushed through the crowd. "This boy was with me," she said firmly. "He helped me carry millet. A thief does not give his strength freely." Murmurs rippled through the onlookers. The traders hesitated, but the tall man still looked suspicious. Finally, he waved his hand. "Go. But keep him out of my sight." Femi and Toby hurried away, his heart still racing. The injustice burned inside him, but so did something else, gratitude. Someone had believed him. That night, they slept in a quiet corner outside the town, the market lights glowing faintly in the distance. Femi realized that trust, once given, was more valuable than gold. The road after Okara wound gently between hills, dotted with palm trees and cassava farms. Femi and Toby traveled slowly, stopping to rest in the shade whenever the sun burned too hot. On the second afternoon, they saw smoke rising ahead. It wasn't the dark, dangerous smoke of a fire, it was light, calling gently into the blue sky. The smell of roasting maize floated on the breeze. Following the scent, they reached a small village called Orphan. The people were busy shelling beans, pounding yam, and repairing fishing nets by the riverbank. Unlike in Okonla or Okaira, no one gave Femi suspicious looks. Near the center of the village, an elderly man with a broad straw hat waved at him. "Young boy, where are you coming from?" Femi hesitated. "From far. I'm just passing." "Passing?" The man chuckled. "Everyone is passing somewhere. But even passers-by need food." He invited Femi to his compound. Children ran to greet Toby, laughing as the little dog wagged his tail. The man's wife served roasted maize and cool water from a clay pot. Over the meal, the man introduced himself as Boba Ojo, the village fisherman. He explained that he needed someone to help mend nets and carry baskets to the river. "I can pay you with food, a small sleeping space, and maybe even a little money if you work well." For the first time in a long while, Femi felt a spark of hope. But a voice in his heart whispered, "Don't trust too quickly. People can change." That evening, Boba Ojo showed him a small hut near the river. "It's not much," he said, "but it's dry and safe." As the sun dipped behind the hills, painting the water gold, Femi sat outside with Toby at his feet. He could hear laughter from the village, smell cooking fires, and feel the gentle touch of the evening breeze. It felt like home. But as he lay down to sleep, another thought troubled him. "If I stay, I must prove I am worth keeping. And I must be ready if they decide they don't want me here anymore." The fear was still there, but so was a quiet determination. This time, he would not live in tears. Weeks passed, and Femi settled into life in Orphan. He woke early to help Boba Ojo carry nets to the river, learned how to patch holes in fishing baskets, and even started smiling more often. Toby became a favorite among the children, who brought him scraps of yam and fish, yet deep inside, Femi knew he couldn't hide from his past forever. One evening, as they sat mending nets, Boba Ojo looked at him with gentle eyes. "Femi," he said, "you work hard, you respect everyone here, and you care for that dog like family. But I can see there's a story you haven't told." Femi swallowed hard. "There's not much to tell." Boba Ojo's voice was calm. "If you don't share your wounds, they stay open. Speak, Omomi." So Femi told him about his parents' deaths, the aunt who took him in, the whispers, the false accusations, and the day he walked away from Okonla with tears streaming down his face. When he finished, Boba Ojo said nothing for a while. Then he sighed. "Some people push away what they don't understand. But that doesn't mean you are worthless. In this life, sometimes you have to build your own place to belong." The words sank deep into Femi's heart. A few days later, a trader from Okonla passed through Orphan. When he recognized Femi, he said, "Oh, the boy they said was cursed. They will be surprised to hear you are alive and doing well." Femi stiffened. The thought of going back filled him with both fear and a strange curiosity. That night, he lay awake, staring at the roof. Should he return, even for a short visit, just to show them he had survived? In the end, he decided to go, not to beg, but to stand tall. The journey back took 2 days. When he entered Okonla with Toby trotting beside him, people stopped to stare. His aunt came out of her compound, her eyes wide. "Femi." She whispered. "Yes," he said simply. "I came to say I am fine." There was silence, then murmurs through the crowd. Some looked ashamed, others just curious. Femi didn't wait for their approval. He had said what he came to say. As he walked away, he realized his cheeks were wet. But these weren't the same tears as before. These were lighter, the kind that came from finally letting go. Back in Orphan, as the sun set, he whispered to Toby, "We didn't just live in tears. We came back in strength."